All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Side Quest Podcast, the unofficial podcast of Fitocracy. I have a really special podcast for you tonight. This is something we're going to start doing once a month, the second week of the month, second Monday. You will get what I'm going to call the Coach's Corner. This was an idea of a fellow guest, Mr. Travis Pollen. We're going to get a few coaches in on the call, and we're going to chat about things ranging from nutrition, exercise, to mindset, to habits, to whatever we discuss that week. But if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, I'll get that out of the way. Check me out at SideQuest FM, on Instagram as well at SideQuest FM. Head over to Facebook, SideQuest Podcast, and like us there, or listen to all the episodes at sidequestfitness.com/podcast. Speaking of Mr. Travis Pollen, I have Travis as one of the coaches on the show this week. Also on the show, we have all of these guys, former guests, Mr. Tanner Baze, two-time guest, so now he's on for a third time.
Yeah.
The one and the only Joseph Brooks. He was a guest back in December of last year, so I'll link that up so you guys can go listen to him if you haven't, gone through all the episodes. And then again, the one and the only, the strong man himself, Mr. Adam Fisher.
Hey, what's up?
Former guest as well, and I'll link to his show in the show notes. But Travis came up with this idea, and about a month ago, we all got together and hung out for a little while and chatted business. But we wanted to have a roundtable so you guys could hear from multiple coaches about how we approach things, or things that are confusing, and things that we're working towards getting smarter at to help you guys as well. This week, our topic is simplifying nutrition. It's pretty complicated, but it isn't. But it is, because the media makes it that way. When you have people telling you to not eat carbs, but then people telling you that potatoes are okay, and then people telling you that milk will have a newt growing out of your anus if you drink it in 85-degree summer heat. And then they will tell you that, no, it's totally cool if you eat green peppers, but really red peppers have more vitamin C in it, or some bullshit, and you're so totally confused, you don't know what to do, so you just grab a pint of Ben & Jerry's, hopefully you're choosing cinnamon bun, because that's a great flavor, and you just sit there and weep and cry while you watch the new episodes, because by the time this episode is out, you should be watching it, the new episodes of Wet Hot American Summer on Netflix. That's what I would be doing when I get confused with nutrition. But we want to simplify it for you guys. Like I said, there's a lot of BS out there, but we want to get down to the X and Y's and make it simple. So where we're going to kind of start, and excuse me, I'm reading notes, is we're going to go over, what macronutrients are, how best to plan, and how to simplify your nutrition in the most basic, fundamental way, and how we can teach that to others. So I guess what we'll go into now is what you do and don't really need to know when it comes to nutrition. As I said, you hear a lot of things like, eat like a caveman, don't eat grains. Oh, fat will kill you and clog up your arteries, don't eat fat. Oh no, fat's totally cool, eat all of it. It's out there, it's crazy, we don't know what to do, we're confused half the time. So we'll get started in on that area. So anybody, pipe up. What do you guys teach when it comes to macros, and how do you teach clients, what they need to know when they come to you and they're like, so explain to me what I should eat?
Well, the confusing thing for me, it's Travis talking, and the reason I thought about this topic in the first place was that I recently lost a lot of weight after surgery and needed to gain back 25 pounds. And so I started trying to track my calorie intake using my MyFitnessPal, which is what I'd recommended people do in the past, but to be honest, I'd never had to do it because I'd always been the weight that I wanted to be. So, I went, day one, and I went through breakfast, and I went through lunch, and it was so hard for me to do, like looking up this shit on my phone and trying to figure out how much I'd eaten, and whether or not you're trying to gain weight or lose weight, just tracking, I couldn't get through an entire day. I couldn't finish dinner. So I was like, I can't recommend that people count their calories if I can't do it myself. And so then I was like, well, are there better ways to do it? Because I know that some people, like, they go nuts counting calories because for them it, like, becomes an obsessive thing where, like, they have to get it to the, like, nearest half a calorie and, like, oh no, if they go over, like, they're going to die. So it just led me to think, like, is calorie counting and macronutrient counting the best way to do it? Or are there other ways to do it? And then I wanted to know what you guys had success with.
I mean, I'll agree that I have had issues in the past actually getting people to follow MyFitnessPal. This is Adam, by the way. I've had the exact same experience with a lot of clients because, again, it's not a very intuitive system, and it's maybe we tend to think of it as an easy way into counting calories, but it really does sort of drop you in the deep end, more so than maybe some other approaches. And it really sucks because it is kind of a necessary evil because we don't necessarily have a much better product out on the market now. And it's actually kind of forced me to, in many cases, move away from very strict macro-based programs and kind of focus more on, for lack of a better word, like clean eating, like telling people like this is what to eat and this is what not to eat.
Yeah, that was
just
my other
because
thing.
It's
like,
so much easier.
Just having a list, like, here's what you can eat, here's what you can't. But then even the stuff that you can't, as long as you only eat a little bit of it once in a while, you're probably okay.
Yeah.
Like everything in moderation.
This is Tanner. That was actually the whole like list thing was actually a really, really big deal that I noticed started helping a lot of my clients. And I think all of us got caught up in like tracking macros and tracking calories just because like the pendulum swung so hard from clean eating straight to macros and calories. And for a lot of people, they do want like something that they can pick and choose from, like a list that they know they can build their meals around what's on that list. So like with all of my clients now, what I'll do is I'll send them a document and their recommendations, as far as like their numbers they need to be shooting for, are in that document. But what's also in that document is a listing of foods. Like, here are your ideal protein sources that I want you to choose from. Here are your ideal carbs, your fats. And then I also even have like a list of vegetables that are things like spinach and cherry tomatoes and asparagus. And I'm like, don't even fucking think about counting this. It's not worth your time. Eat as much of this as you possibly want.
And do you recommend that they get like one protein and one vegetable every meal, and like maybe a certain size? Like the rule that you're supposed to eat a piece of meat the size of your fist. Like,
yeah, the palm thing. It depends on the level of the client. Like, I have a couple of brand newbies. Significant goals, like 80-pound weight loss we're talking, but they have no clue about nutrition or tracking or things like that. So simple little tools and tricks like that I do implement.
Yeah, I mean those easy rules, like giving them one thing at a time to focus on, that'll make a big difference. Like if they're eating like a box of Oreos every day, like eat half a box of Oreos instead.
Yeah.
Right, and that's I think that's sort of what I try to do as well. I guess I still get asked all the time like how much protein, just because now protein is like the Kardashians, it's the cool thing that everyone wants to do.
Yeah, it's the wonder food.
Yeah, and yes, it's awesome and it has wonderful power, but if you eat too much of it, you can still get fat. Like you eat too much of any of it, you're still gonna get fat.
Do you guys find that your clients know the difference right off the bat between what a carb, fat, and protein is?
A lot of them do not, and a lot of them don't realize that a lot of foods are made up of all three, or have two, and might be missing one.
Yeah,
that's one thing.
Or what really constitutes a carb too.
Yeah.
Right. Because technically, I mean, even the spinach has carbs in it, but it's mostly dietary fiber, and the fact that when you chew it, you burn more calories chewing what's in it. Like, yes, all of that stuff, all three macronutrients are typically in the stuff that you eat, and that's why people are like, oh, but nuts have protein, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they have protein, but that's, milk also has carbs. Like, that's like just looking at milk as a great source of protein. Yeah, but it also has carbs. It also has fat. Like,
yeah.
Then you get down into the minutia, and I think that's where it confuses people. I still deal with this, especially with my boot campers that I had, and one of my clients. They're like, oh, but like nuts or like peanut butter or this or that, and I'm like, well, yes, but if you look at the way it's broken down, like, you don't get a large, chunk of protein out of that. It has a little bit in it, and yeah, beans are great, but they're predominantly more carb heavy.
Yeah.
You have to go with what's more heavy, and I think they get confused by that because they're like, I just want an answer. I just want like a yes. Like, don't. So I think what we have to kind of do is sort of be like, yes, you can have this, but eat the serving size. And I told the guys that ran my boot camps, and I tell clients on, the few clients I have online, I'm like, look, I don't care how much fat or carbs you have. That's as long as you just hit the protein mark, and as long as you only, like, my goal for you each day, or the goal I want you to have, is to hit 100 grams from some meat or like dairy source that's like high in protein. That's it. The rest of your protein, the other 50 grams or 60 grams that I recommend you have, will be filled in by the carbs and the fats, sources that you get things from. Like, I don't care as long as you get 100 grams of protein, where the rest of it comes from.
Yeah, that's something I actually tend to do. Maybe not with like beginner clients who are just starting stuff for the first time, but if someone maybe has a little bit of experience dieting before, that's typically what I'll sort of put them in. Is I'll say, listen, your protein targets matter, your protein numbers matter. We're not going to worry about your overall calories. We're not going to worry about your carbs or your fats for right now, and we'll add that stuff in later. The important thing is first making sure that you have a good handle on your protein numbers.
So you're finding that most people are not eating enough protein, and if you just start with that, then that makes a big difference, regardless.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then again, you always work forward from there. It depends on, some people that might take them a week to get into, and other people it might take them months before they can.
Right. I mean, they say like it can take 21 days to form a habit or whatever. I recently heard a good tip from John Goodman. He said he'll meet with the clients, and he says that basically people often know what they have to do, or at least like one thing that they have to do. And so he'll have them write on a piece of paper like the number one mistake that they're making, and then he'll have them put it in their pocket. So each time they take out their cell phone, like, or even reach their hand in their pocket, like, there's that constant reminder that, like, I'm not gonna have a Coke today or whatever. And
that's good.
Yeah, and like, he also says, I think it was him, he said, like, when people are proposing the solution themselves, like, as opposed to you telling them not to drink the Coke, they're saying, I'm not going to drink the Coke, then they're much more likely to follow it because they've come up with it themselves.
Well, that's true, because they recognize the problem. I mean, when you recognize a problem, I think that goes down for anything. I'm not trying to go into areas of like drug or alcohol, but most people will run from those things because they don't want to, once you admit you have it, that's the first step. So once you know that you consciously, okay, I need to make an effort to do this, then it makes it a lot easier. But building that habit is difficult. When it comes to eating more vegetables, I'm, as we're recording this, working on funny enough, I put this up in the Motivate forum last night. I was working on an article on consistency, and I went to an article by James Clear, and then saw this really cool thing that Josh Hillis does with his clients.
He's a beast.
He doesn't tell them to track every day. He wants them to just make sure they hit their weekly calorie mark, which I thought about, and I was like, that's really good, because there are days like where I know when I'm tracking in MyFitnessPal, and I get a little anal about it just because I usually am experimenting and doing stuff, and I want to be anal about it because I love data when it involves me, not when it involves others. But I thought about that. I was like, there are many times where like I've overeaten a day, and then the next day I just go, all right, well, I'll just not eat. I'll eat 300 less calories because I ate 300 over the other day, and you're fine. Like it doesn't. Your metabolism isn't a 24-hour, an 8-hour thing or a 16-hour thing. Like it's more than 24. Like it constantly moves and changes and does things. And I know for a fact on vacation there was a day I ate cookie dough ice cream, and I planned out to wait all day, and like I didn't drink that much, and I only had protein, and I had one meal. It was basically a slab of cookie dough, like just the dough. So it was probably like 150 grams of fat in 2 scoops. But I was fine the next day. I didn't eat that much, and I got home and I hadn't gained a pound. So I think looking at it from weekly might help a lot more people than just every day I got to hit this number, I got to hit this number, I got to hit this number. Just know that overall you have this in a week.
I mean, that's also like the 80-20 thing, or like the
Exactly.
having a cheat meal or a cheat day. Like, as long as you're really good the other 6 days or the other X number of meals, like you can afford to go off the diet as long as it doesn't push you so far off that you can't get back on. Or as long as you're not eating the entire bag of chips. Like, you can have some chips.
I mean, I can't remember where I heard this. I want to say it was like John Romanella, that there are like rules dieters, and then there are like intuition dieters, or whatever you want to call them, where you have people who they have to have strict rules to abide by, and those people generally do better with 6 days out of the week is as strict as possible, and then you have your cheat day in which you can go all out. Whereas you have your intuition or your moderation dieters, who are your more like, if it fits your macros crowd, who they have the control to eat a cookie after dinner and work that in and that sort of thing. And that actually did make me take a look, because I realized myself, like, I am absolutely a rules dieter. If I want to do well, I have to have rules that I can abide by. And knowing that there's a cheat day at the end of the tunnel, like, I don't go crazy 6 days out of the week, because I know on Sunday or whatever day my cheat day is, I can have wings, beer, pizza, ice cream, and it's not going to matter, because in the grand scheme of things, that's really not a huge calorie dent.
Right. And then there's the person, like you said, who's the total opposite, that if they had that cheat day, then they just go too far. And so they need to have that like little piece of dark chocolate every day, so that they don't end up going nuts on the cheat day.
I don't know where I heard this data point, and I don't know who said it, but Travis, maybe you do, or one of you guys knows, that typically most people are, what was it? She was at the fitness summit. Adam, the nutrition lady who spoke at the summit. Why am I not remembering her?
Which one? I may have been asleep that day.
Oh, well, actually, I think you were asleep that day, Mr.
I slept through the second day, yes.
Yeah. But she said that most people are within a 20% range of their daily calorie needs. But they're either, like, if you're 20% under, your body doesn't really notice. But most people tend to be in that 20% over. So there's that weird, like, one day they can be under, one day they can be over. But if we're 20% over all the time, like, that's sort of what leads to gradual weight gain. So if you're an intuitive eater, how do you prevent yourself from constantly being in that 20% over range? Like, do you guys, like, if you get a client who's like, I don't really want to track, I'm really good at, like, just knowing what my body wants and knowing when I'm full, like, how do you kind of coach an intuitive eater?
I propose, like, first going with okay, let's be intuitive and, just be smart, don't eat the crap. And then if they come back for measurements, a month later, they've been doing everything that they're supposed to, but they haven't lost weight, then you need to go, like, a step stricter. Like, all right, now you're going to eat from this list and not eat from this list, and you're going to have, like, a meal every few hours, but not that much. like eat like just have some more strict rules, like eat till you're an 8 out of 10 full, not a 10 out of 10. And then if they still come back 4 weeks later and haven't lost anything, that's when you need to go to like all right, you're going to write down everything you eat. We're going to count your macros. And then if that doesn't work, and sometimes that doesn't even work, then I guess you have to go all out meal planning.
Well, and then there's a concept through.
That's well, hold on. That's if you can meal plan. Let's put that out there as coaches. Like,
Yeah.
That's not easy either. That's the hardest thing to do, actually.
yeah. Go ahead, Joe.
And so Precision Nutrition has this, I guess, checklist guidelines just to take it one step further from what Travis said. And I've had to use this once or twice where a client is just not adhering to the goals that you've both agreed to, and you give them sort of a check or a star that says, yes, you did complete this for the day, and then they keep doing that throughout the week just to keep up with the goals. And if they miss it just once, you clean the slate and you start from scratch working on that habit.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll say as well that my approach, at least with sort of the intuitive type people, is just to talk about it a lot, because the more that they talk about it, the more that they're thinking about it, and the more that they're thinking about it, the more they tend to actually have, they tend to actually sort of reflect on what they're doing and be able to actually change things. And yeah, then you start adding in sort of individual habits, one at a time, obviously, and if a habit doesn't quite form right, then you just add another one. And if someone says, oh, I'm doing great, but my issue is that I go drinking on the weekends, it's okay. Well, now we need to figure out what we're going to do about you drinking on the weekends.
Wait,
everyone sort of knows. Yeah, right. A lot of people, again, sort of know what's wrong. They just don't want to change. And so you sort of have to sit down with them and sort of say, listen, you're going to have to change. And, and you have to work with them on that. Obviously, you can't just, like you have to do this, and this, from day one. But again, it's up to them to change, and
Well, so now we're getting into like behavioral change.
Yeah. What about the people who say that they're doing everything that you're telling them to do, and they're still not losing? Are they lying, or is there sometimes like something that's missing?
I happen to think that they are, and that's exactly why I started doing that checklist thing, because if you're monitoring their exercise and it's properly set up for weight loss, fat loss, you have however that's set up, and they're saying they're doing all the right things, but they're still not losing weight, well, then something's not adding up. And it probably comes from they're slacking off in one or two areas. Maybe they're not working out as frequently as they said they were, or not as intense as they should be, or they went over a little bit on the calories. Sometimes the planning becomes a little too strict and they don't want to give, so instead of letting what they think is letting us down, they lie instead.
Yeah, and I actually this really ties into something I wrote a while back that kind of blew up, and it's like this way, there's all these ways that our brains tend to fuck with us and tend to really screw us out of making progress, and one of those is called narrative bias, and it's basically just like the stories that we tell ourselves to justify behaviors or justify like things that have happened. And I think that happens a lot with clients, is like, they might not be making progress, and something has taken place that's resulted in like lower compliance rates, or they're not able to hit as hard in the gym as they think, but they've justified that in a manner, and now they're not being as honest about it. Or, it happens all the time. Like, I really try hard not to jump straight into somebody being into, like, obviously, like, calling out a client, like, you're being dishonest. I'll slowly, steadily just try and get more and more hands-on with that person, or dig and ask more to figure out, like, okay, what the hell is really going on? Like, I had this happen with one client, and this was like 3 weeks ago, and lo and behold, I find out that, like, the guy's mom got put in the hospital over the weekend, and all he had to eat was shitty hospital food and like a soda machine, and the guy already had a Coke drinking problem, and he had like 8 Cokes over the course of 2 days, and he was talking about not making progress. So then it was kind of like, dude, here's why. Like, but it took me about 8 questions to find that out.
Yeah, because sometimes they don't even
people
realize
are
it.
different in that regard, and I think it does take some
Right.
digging on our parts to kind of cut through all the shit, really.
Well, I had something similar the other day. As my boot campers were finishing up and they're opening their show, this week. They're doing Tech Week, and for those who don't know theater, the weekend before a show opens is the time you finally get in the space and the lights are up and you're running cues and you're doing all the technical stuff that has to happen. And basically, you're in a theater for like 14 hours a day. And for technicians, it's like the most stressful time. It's crazy. And one of them, while I was there and we were getting updated measurements, was like, "I'm sorry, I'm eating a pizza. I'm stress eating." So like your client who's in the hospital, that's a stressful time, and we immediately go to the things that make us feel better. When I'm stressed, there are basically 3 things I really want to do. One, I'll go to Taco Bell and then I hate myself and realize, fuck, why did I do that? Or 2,
Wait, Taco Bell makes you hate yourself?
Yeah, for real.
That's the opposite of what
dude, listen, I'm just saying, every time I have like a chicken quesadilla now, like it's not what I remember it, and it's just slightly disappointing.
Because you're not smashed.
For those that maybe
That's
don't
true.
know me too well, I actually I am solidly in the IFYM camp, and I'd say I have a 12-ounce can of Baja Blast probably 4 or 5 days a week. Just for the record. And I did, in fact, go buy $15 worth of Taco Bell the other day.
Oh, man, you beat my record. But like, so how do you help a client, when like stress eating? Because that's something everyone struggles with, no matter what. Like if a shitty thing is happening to you, you're gonna go to that thing that even years down the line, you're gonna go to the peanut butter, or you're gonna go to a 6-pack of High Life, or you're gonna go.
Oh, no, not High Life.
Whatever. You're just like you're gonna go to what makes you what always sort of made you feel better. So how do you help a client prevent stress eating or recognize it so that they can deal with that?
Tell them to do some push-ups instead.
Yeah. It's a huge problem because for a lot of people, their stress is centered around their job, and their job isn't just something that they can just up and quit.
Right.
They've centered. I had, for example, a client who was a dentist, and his life was very busy, and he still had time to come in and work out every day, but he literally had maybe 3 or 4 hours of sleep every night. And I was telling him, I was like, man, you really got to sleep. And he was like, no, well, just because the way my schedule is set up, I don't have any other time that I can sleep, and I can't sleep during the day. And so he was just, his body was a wreck because he just couldn't sleep. And it's hard to tell someone, that that's where a lot of your problems might be coming from, because, again, it's not like I can say quit your job or find a different one, because that's very difficult.
Yeah.
So sometimes stress, you can work around it. So you can say, listen, you need to avoid these sort of stressors, or you need to maybe find different ways to deal with these stressors. But if the stressors are so fundamental, then that may be a huge roadblock for you.
If you have, obviously that guy didn't have any more time to add anything to his schedule, but, if you can find something that relieves stress, if it's meditation or yoga, or if working out does it for you, then maybe building that into your schedule relieves some of the stress and prevents that urge to go to the Taco Bell and, overdo it.
I know that, like, right now with how less stressed my life is, mostly because Adam's right. Like, I worked a desk job. I hated waking up every day. I loathed Sunday nights at like this time. I wanted to just like run and hide in a cave and not come out and hope that I would wake up and the nightmare would be gone. But finally, I'm out of there, whatever. But I know people do that all the time. People do it every single day, day in and day out, 365 days a year. So, they're making changes and they want to make changes, but they still have that stressor. I don't know, like, and nutrition, I think food is the one thing that makes us feel good. It always makes us feel good. And it's so hard because 9 times out of 10 I feel like people want to eat the food to make them feel better, but it's a cycle. I don't know.
It's literally a stress death trap. Like I can't remember where I read this, but like we all forget that like stress, we all have a massive stress reservoir that we pull from throughout the day, throughout the week, etc. And different things pull from it. Lack of sleep, life, your job, having to recover from what you do in the gym, different things. And if you pull from that stress reservoir and literally bring it down to the empty bottom of the barrel, you have to replenish that somehow, and you need energy to replenish that, so you seek out energy, which is food. And generally, you're probably going to want the quickest source of energy available, which is shit food. So, and then you get stressed about the fact that you ate shit food. So it does become a little bit of like a stress death trap. And one big thing that I think that a lot of people struggle with, but if you can get them out of the death trap, is helping them see, like, focusing on, instead of like an outcome goal. Joe mentioned precision nutrition, and one of their big things is like helping people focus on behavior goals versus an outcome goal. Like, take a highly stressed individual and say, okay, fuck the idea of losing 10 pounds. Instead, why don't we focus on making sure you eat a handful of spinach at lunch and dinner? Or even that might be too hard, but like,
drinking a glass of water every hour.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Like finding different like behavior goals that they can start shooting for.
Sometimes there's a lot of guys who or whomever get stressed at work, instead of passing the bathroom that's going to pass the cafeteria or the vending machine, going down another hallway or taking the opposite route around the office, just to avoid the temptation of food, especially when they're stressed.
That's a really good idea. Yeah, I mean, that's a perfect example.
Go ahead.
Being prepared to, if there is that vending machine down the hall, like preempting that by packing an apple and carrots every day, so that can be your snack instead of reaching for the cookies and candy and stuff.
Yeah.
But that means a lot of preparation. That means going to the supermarket every week or twice a week, and for some people that's not possible, I guess.
Well, so that's a good point. Because you can go through strawberries and blueberries really, really quickly, and to be honest, unless you're putting frozen fruit in like a shake, it kind of tastes like shit to put it in a Tupperware and take it to work with you and let it like thaw out, because then it gets like wilty, and it doesn't, like, you don't want to eat it. I'd rather go eat a bag of chips than like thawed out frozen strawberries.
Yeah, it's got to be fresh fruits and veggies in that case.
Yeah,
and that can be expensive, for sure.
Yeah, one thing too, like, and this is not nutrition related, but like, when you do notice that, like, holy shit, like the hits just don't seem to stop, and you're stressed to the gills. Like, one thing, if I notice like I'm getting insanely busy or just crazy, is like I'll fire off like a 10-second Snapchat video to my best friend in the world who I've known since we were 1, and we'll just go back and forth really quick, and that does a really interesting thing of making sure that, like, I don't know, my mindset shifts just a little bit. Or like, my dog is the coolest fucking dog in the world. So like, if I'm working from home, I'll take like 10 minutes and just like play fight with him. Okay? Something like that. If you're at the office or something like that, like a 5-10 minute walk outside can do a really, really good job of reframing the way you're viewing the day. Outside, actually, I think would be one of the best things, because there's something about being outside that just makes you feel so much better. So, I mean, they aren't nutrition related, but they can indirectly help you make better nutrition choices by relieving stress.
So what you're telling us is that Snapchat is the hot new weight loss app. Is that right?
Dude, Adam, you read my
I'm still trying to figure it out. Gary Vaynerchuk says it's like the thing to do, and I'm like, I don't understand this platform.
I just found out what it was yesterday.
Oh, dude, I love Snapchat. I Snapchat all day.
All right, so next on our list, so we've talked about. So all right, let's do this. We talked about simplifying, and we never really came to it. So what could we say right now is a very simple way for people to approach nutrition if it really is their Achilles heel? Like, is it like going to a coach and getting a list of foods? If you guys want, in the show notes, I will put the list that I send the clients as well. And if you want to send me yours, I'll add to it. And people can just click it, and I'll see if I can link it to
But what if my list has something that you say to eat and mine says not to eat?
Yeah, true.
Then it goes in the maybe, but then it's very nebulous.
How about this? How about we each all give our recommendations, take turns, and then we can let our listeners decide.
I like that.
I like that. We'll do that. Yeah, cool. Because I would definitely say eat lots of cottage cheese, but that's just me. It's so good. It's so good. And if you've never had Taco Bell breakfast, fine, get Taco Bell breakfast. But just bringing it up one time, that's it. Don't do it again.
Just once.
Just once. Well, just once, because it's really all you need. God, I haven't. Adam, have you had them? The Captain Crunch.
I am okay. Well, first of all, the Captain Crunch balls are one of those things that make me think that like white people should all be killed. Like that's like that's one of those things where it's like I think white people have done enough. We need to stop. Like there are limits. But no, I haven't tried any of the Taco Bell breakfast, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, we will, guys, if you're listening to the show, we'll put a link here in the show notes, or you can reach out to me at email at sidequestfitness@gmail.com, and I'll send you the list as well. So how can we make it the most simple? We haven't really answered that. We've kind of danced around it, and I don't know if we can give an answer, because maybe you are a rules-based person, and maybe you're sort of anal like me, and you try to do the intuitive eating and ended up looking like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, and got called puffy and immediately went on a 6-month stint of cutting and reverse dieting, because it happens. So, like, I don't know. Like, is there an answer? Is there the best way to intuitive eat? Should you just count calories? Should you look at it like Josh Hillis does and do a week long? Like,
I think there are some universal truths that we could all agree on. Like, 1, drink more water. Like, however much water you're drinking, drink more.
Yes.
2, have protein at every meal. The amount is going to depend, as much as that answer sucks, but probably more than what you're having. 3, eat more veggies.
Taste the rainbow, baby. Make it colorful. Taste the rainbow.
Yeah. But, like, as far as everything else goes, like, carbs, you might need a lot, you might not need a lot. Like, how frequently you're eating, like whether you want to fast sometimes or not, is going to depend on you. And then even what if you do choose to follow your macros, what that breakdown is going to be is going to depend on your activity level and your age and maybe your sex. So, like I said, there are probably some universal truths, but apart from that, like maybe it's not. Maybe it is. It is simple in a sense, but it's also not simple.
Right. Well, and it's not simple because I think so many of us going out to eat is the hardest thing to do. Like, it is really, really effing hard unless you want to just order a steak, a sirloin steak and broccoli every time, or just a chicken breast with no dressing. Like,
it's always more. The portion's always bigger. So, like, a rule might be eat half of the meal that you get,
right?
Or only go out once a week.
Unless you're out with grandma, and then she's going to tell you you're not a part of the clean plate club. So just eat less during the day.
Don't even think about not being part of the clean plate club if you're going out with grandma.
Not when grandma's around.
So one thing I will tell like clients to really start focusing on, and I really don't remember where I heard this, but it's essentially just like this idea that all diets, no matter what diet it is, argue this, and it's 3 points, and it's make sure you eat lots of colors, meaning colorful fruits and vegetables. Avoid cheap sources of carbs, the ones that usually come in a bag or a box. And some people will hear this and think, but rice comes in a bag, whole grain bread comes in a bag. Obviously, don't be a douche. We mean like the idea that you can get ripped eating eight Pop-Tarts a day. Let's not worry about applying that right now. Just don't buy cheap sources of carbs that come in a box or a bag, and you're probably going to do better off. And then the third one was just like, don't eat too many fats that come from a lab. So spend a lot more time eating things like olive oil. Don't overdo it with butter, obviously. Coconut oil and things like that. Protein's not in there, but whenever I read those 3 points, I thought that really resonated because I think a lot of fitness advice, and this is why it's so confusing, a lot of fitness and nutrition advice is written for like the top 1 to 2% of people who really could see some change, when the 90% is reading that advice, and
Right.
they don't have their basics taken care of. So
That's much the same as exercise, right?
yeah. Exactly.
Well, and that's what the more I talk about it with people, and being here this summer and actually working with people one-on-one and talking nutrition, I've started to kind of realize I sound like a dick when I talk about flexible dieting. Because it's training wheels, and you got to get people to eat whole food sources before I can be like, oh, well, you can eat a whole pint of Ben & Jerry's. And yes, though I do eat and can eat 2 pints like I did yesterday, it's also very hard because at dinner you're like, oh, great, I have a plate of shrimp. That's it. You can't just, I don't think people can jump in to flexible dieting and be like, all right, well, okay, cool, I can eat all the Oreos and be okay. It's not going to be that simple. And I think we have to merge that sort of clean eating and flexible dieting together. I mean, we do, but I think too many times people hear, I can eat all the Pop-Tarts, I can eat all the ice cream, I can eat the bonbons. Okay, but then they forget the clean eating, and we got to figure out a good way to get that message across that, yes, you can have the Oreos, but you got to make sure that you've had the sweet potato and the veggies and the chicken and the shrimp and whatever beforehand. And maybe it's really just going back to, hey, those things are treats, and treats should be treats, not everyday occurrences.
I agree also that I feel that we do often see a lot of stuff on the internet that's sort of really pitched towards advanced exercisers that is presented as if it's for general population. Yeah. And I think that this is something that happens a lot. So here's what I think happened, and this may or may not be the most sound theory, but in the past, the fitness industry was very specialized. We had specialty gyms catering to specialty populations, bodybuilders. If you wanted to work out, you were working out for some kind of purpose. You had some kind of competition or some kind of sport or athletic event you were training for. But with the 80s and the rise of the obesity epidemic, what we saw was that suddenly now people really had to work out for their health. And so now we have people that are working out not because they want to be, good for some sort of competition, but because they just want to be in better shape. And that makes it hard because then so much of the fitness industry was, and I think still is, centered around catering to, those people in those specialty populations, rather than really looking at, sort of general populations and seeing what works for them. And I think that's why we have such stupid stuff like The Biggest Loser and all that stuff becoming really popular because the fitness industry has been aiming in the wrong direction. It's not really attempting to do stuff like that where you're trying to reach a huge audience.
Look at a gym like Planet Fitness. I mean, they, as much as sometimes I guess even I'm guilty of kind of giving them shit for not having a squat rack or whatever. Like, you don't necessarily need to back squat or deadlift to be in good health. You can use dumbbells and you can use the machines and you can use a Smith machine, but please don't squat on it. It's just really, but that's just me. Like, you can use those, and you're right, Adam. Like, they went for that demographic, but here we are in the fitness industry, kind of putting that gym down, or gyms like that, or other places like that.
Exactly.
And yet they're the ones about to go public, and what are we doing?
Exactly. You know what? We put them down, and we put The Biggest Loser down, and we put Weight Watchers down. Weight Watchers is also a $1 billion company, and we put them down because they figured out a way to leverage the general population and give them stuff that the general population can actually do. Like, I've got a Facebook friend, a group I've known since high school, she about 2 years ago was tipping the scales at close to 300 pounds, and she's lost 150 now, and her gym membership is Planet Fitness. And she's huge into fitness now. Still goes to Planet Fitness. And I guarantee you, I mean, Planet Fitness probably has a million success stories like that because the net is so wide because they focus on the general population and they're not circle jerking with the rest of us fit pros.
Well, no, they do have a success story. I had him on as a guest. If you guys want to go back, I don't remember what episode, I'll link it. But Ed Hohen, he was the guy, the fitness subreddit's like Transformation of 2014. He works out at a Planet Fitness.
Yeah.
The dude lost like 300 pounds.
Man, I opened a can of worms, didn't I?
You did.
No, I don't think you did, but I think you made a good point, and I think we have felt like I say this and being so new to all of it, but you're right that like Weight Watchers, they've been around for a while and they know how to work it, and though they do good things, and here we are just sort of trying to figure it out, and we're trying to give people the right information, but we're still not doing it the best way possible. And I think that's sort of one of the things, listeners, that we want to do with Coach's Corner is find these ways, is find what works and find what doesn't, and as the young bucks that we are, create something that is better and that can last, and spread to everyone. Because, dude, I just had the inspiration while talking to you guys to write an article called "I Don't Want to Be a Gym Rat: Ways to like stay fit and never step foot in a gym." Like, there are ways to do it. You don't have to go lift weights, though having more muscle mass means you get to eat food because you lose 1% to 2% every year as you age. You don't have to, but like, you don't. And I think I feel like sometimes I'm very adamant about go lift weights. Like, I know what benefit it provides, but I still don't realize that many times that's very off-putting to people. And there are other ways for people to get fit without having to go stand next to a hulking, muscular dude,
Which can be really intimidating for people. And we become
Absolutely.
very domesticated. We just think we should have to go to the gym, check our heart rate, track our calories, whatever it may be. And for a lot of people, that can be overwhelming, intimidating, not motivating. They might be more interested in outdoor activities, recreational sports, and there's definitely ways to lose weight and stay fit doing that, but you won't get the benefit of muscular strength or growth.
Right. I mean, yeah, you can do body weight exercises, but there's only so much that you can do. And for some people who are very, who are very heavy, they can't do their own body weight, so
Right.
Finding ways of things that they can do that, reading a very interesting book right now called What Comes First, Cardio or Weights?
Alex Hutchinson?
Yes. I'll link it up to
Great
anyone. It's a fantastic book. There's a lot of stuff in there that I'm like, there's some cool data that I didn't realize.
Yeah,
but let's
totally debunking stuff that like folklorically like everybody does.
yeah.
He's like, dude, the research does not support this, which is good to know.
All right, so let's cover a couple quick more things. We
Yeah.
mentioned shopping and
One thing that I want to make sure we cover is like all the different not like in depth, but all the different kinds of diets. Like, do they work? Don't they work? Do you need to do it? Don't you need to do it?
all right, then let's cover those very quickly. So we have down in our notes, vegan. I think that's more of a moral, maybe. Like I feel like the people I know that know, like the people I know that are vegan are a little more like, I don't. It's a moral thing for them. It's not necessarily that like.
It could be performance based.
You know what? I think you're probably actually right about that, Robbie. Like, I'm thinking of one particular family in mind who's all vegan, and like most of it is really moral. But there are some who do.
Travis does present that it could be performance because you are getting a high rate of carbohydrates. If you're a runner, it's not a bad way, to eat. There are vegan bodybuilders.
Yeah.
One of the guys from my internship did a whole month of like straight vegan eating, and he was like, it was hard to get 100 grams of protein.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's hard. Like you really have to know what you're doing in order to get everything that you need on that diet.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So maybe that one's not a great example, but something like the paleo diet or the zone diet or like stuff like that. In my opinion, like they all work if you do them, but some of them are a lot harder to maintain over the long term. And there's the whole thing like if you yo-yo diet, you're going to lose weight fast and then you're going to gain it back even more.
Yeah.
So it's more about lifestyle change than it is about like quote unquote diet.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing about paleo is even it had a pendulum swing of you had the 30-day intense, absolutely no grains, no dairy, no nothing that a caveman wouldn't have.
Yeah, and it's gonna work. Like
right,
no
absolutely.
And then it swung back, and it was like, okay, well, tubers are cool now, and this is cool, and that is cool, and dates, which are basically just fucking sugar pellets.
Yeah.
Are in everything, and they're pretty calorically dense things, but it does work. I mean, it worked for me. I did it for 3 months. I lost 3 pant sizes.
I did it for 6 months, and I think in the first week I lost 5 pounds, and I was eating as many sweet potatoes as I could.
Yeah, no joke. I actually am like, I'll get crucified for saying this. I'm a pretty big fan of a paleo style way of eating. Call me crazy, I do think that people probably do eat a little too many grains and probably do rely too much on things like dairy. But that's just in my experience from the people that I work with, and I think that getting them to eat a paleo-style diet generally tends to have them start focusing on things they need to be focusing on.
Right. And even Rob Wolf, if you listen to him talk about it, like
he's so level-headed.
Yeah, he'll say, like, you can eat rice, and I eat rice once in a while. Like,
yeah.
I mean, obviously there are different definitions of paleo, but, like, the general approach of, like, not eating packaged crap and trying to stick to more real food is good.
Yeah.
And you don't have to go crazy with it.
Nope.
So in that sense, a lot of the basic principles, I think, would apply to most nutrition plans.
Well, and I think the basic principles of paleo are basically the same basic principles of clean eating. I think they're one and the same, except clean eating is basically like, okay, we aren't going to say we're grain free. Like it's like.
Right. But then some people might need that. Like for me, that was good because I was like, all right, I'm not going to eat any grains. Like,
yep.
I'm not going to have a little. Like for some people, moderation is better, and for other, it's like, okay, nothing. Like,
well, I have to say this. In the experiment that I've been doing, like I'm now up to almost like 380 grams of carbs a day, and my fats are my fats are at like 65. But I have to say this. Well, you'll read by the time this episode goes up, you guys will be able to read the article. But my article on reverse dieting goes up on Tuesday, July, whatever the fuck day it is, 14th. Yes. So I've just to kind of swing it back up. I've moved it up that high, but when you move your fats down that low, it's hard as hell to eat any meat that isn't shrimp, whitefish, or chicken.
Yeah, that would be tough.
Yeah.
Like, it's really hard, and I the more I think about it, like, I want to finish this. I want to finish this just because I bought a bunch of crap for the summer. I might take my fats back up to like 80 grams and my carbs back down to right around 300, just because it makes it so much easier to eat more cheese, which my wife loves, and to go out, because when you go out, like, carbs and fats are so much more plentiful.
That's the hard thing about paleo. If you're just going to any old restaurant, or like especially like an Italian restaurant, it might be hard to find what you need.
Yeah, it's really hard. It is. I do think if you're eating a paleo style diet and you have family who likes to go out to eat a lot and whatnot, that is the biggest challenge that would hurt adherence. Like, and that's actually whenever I was experimenting with eating that way, that's what I noticed. Like, you don't think about how prevalent breads and grains are until you're not supposed to be eating them, and you're going out to eat twice a week. You just know.
Yeah.
But like, it's funny. Like I said, I lost 5 pounds just eliminating bread, basically.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that's I mean, I didn't keep losing 5 pounds every week, but like that can be.
Yeah, but isn't some of that water weight due to the fact that
Absolutely.
the water and glycogen storage, like.
I will also say that one thing that I've actually done a few times in the past with people who maybe have huge problems with their habits is putting them on sort of a clean eating or like a paleo type approach for a month or two to see how they react to it, and then moving on to something else. I've had a guy, because oftentimes people have very bad habits, and you need to teach them to break those habits, and then you can go back and say, okay, well, now you can have, some ice cream or some soda, so whatever.
Maybe that answer is like jump starting them on something strict so that you like ensure results, and then you can take like a more like moderate approach.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and then I will say that again, that doesn't work for everyone, because some people again need a softer approach and some people need a harder approach.
Right.
But it has worked well in the past. I had a guy lose 15 pounds in his first month or something like that,
Yeah. I mean, Gretchen Rubin, she's a big habits person. In her book that just came out this year called Better Than Before, she talks about a blast start. And a blast start could basically be anything from a 30-day paleo challenge to, God forbid, a 10-day cleanse or something.
Oh, don't use that word, man.
But, anything like that, to where it basically does. It kind of wipes the slate clean.
And raises awareness.
It gets you in the mindset you need to be in, and more importantly, it has you eating and doing the things you need to be doing for good health and good results. And then by the time the blast start is over, most people are kind of shifted into that sort of habit. So it's easier for them to slowly add in some of the things they might enjoy.
Okay.
So what we're saying here, to simplify that, is that sometimes it's better to take your bad habits as they are and start adding in good habits, and then other times it may be easier to start people off with this massive burst of good habits and then add in bad habits.
And it's just going to depend. It's going to depend on the person.
Yeah, well put.
And you as the trainer has to figure out, or try both ways.
Yeah.
There's I want to make a reference, but I'm not going to because it's never mind.
You gotta do it.
As you guys were talking about it, you're talking about elimination, and I'm reminded of a situation with a friend of mine from college where he was like, he couldn't get over this girl, and he just kept talking about her, and he would like pull his phone out and text her, and he would call her, and I'm like, delete her, just delete them. Like, sometimes you just gotta cut things and people out, and sometimes you gotta go to that extreme to get you to move on and better your life or better what you're doing. Sometimes you have to do it, but it doesn't mean that you can't go back to it You just have to, like, you've got to find the strength really in yourself, you know, to say no to that, and then slowly weed yourself back into it and be like, all right, I have the strength to say I only want 2 Oreos, which is a serving size and is crap.
Oh, I know, it's so awful.
It's two Oreos is a serving size.
I never was able to do 2, but for a long time I did 4, but I did 4 every day. So I don't know if that was the right approach or the wrong approach, but it worked for me.
I mean, I guess it's sort of like me. You know, I'm going to say it. A few people say that they can't eat half a pint of Ben & Jerry's. I can. I can totally do it. It hurts a little bit because I want to eat the whole thing, but I can eat half. All right, so we talked about that for a little bit. I want to kind of wrap it up because we are getting close to an hour, and I try to keep things.
I say the supplements is the subject of a future coach's.
Yep, I will touch on.
Yeah, we could absolutely do a whole thing on supplements
at a different time. So where do you guys go for information? You know, do you go to Precision Nutrition? Is there like an ebook out there that really simplified it? Do you go to other coaches' websites? You know, you have people like, you know, of course, John Berardi with Precision Nutrition. You know, Alan Aragon, I was going to bring him up when we were talking. You know,
I think Alan is a good example, from what I understand, is a good example of like the 10%. You know.
Yep.
Like it's the really fine tuning stuff, and that might not be what you need right away.
Yeah,
or what most people need.
I agree with you there, Travis.
Okay.
I have one. There's a company called Center for Science, CSPI. I forget the exact lingo for it, but they run a bi-monthly magazine that you can get sent to your house. It's like $25 for the year, and it's like a 5-page magazine called Nutrition Action, which is pretty scientific based, but they come out with some of the latest research and they try to break it down into smaller steps.
That is that is the Center for Science in the Public Interest.
Yes.
Anybody who's interested. Yeah. Okay.
Is that a third party? Does it say who funds? The only reason I ask is anytime it says Center for Public Interest, I get a little wary because I'm like, uh-oh, who's funding it?
I'm on their website right now, and I don't see any. It doesn't show like that they're bought by the Koch brothers or anything like that.
Right. Well, I'll link it up in the show notes so people can go check it out. But $25 for a year, that's not a bad investment.
No, not at all.
We mentioned Josh Hillis.
Yes.
I think he's phenomenal. I would say, like, he has a book, which I haven't read, and I've listened to him before, and I think he really simplifies things, like the way that he presented, okay, your total body weight is the number of calories you eat, and your body composition is the macronutrient ratio. Like, duh, but I hadn't realized that before.
Yeah.
But with that said,
hold on, say that again. Your body weight.
Your body weight is basically the number of calories you're taking in and expending, right? But then what is going to be the percent body fat is how much of each type of food that you're eating. So how well you're eating is going to determine how lean you are.
So he worked with Dan John for a while. He spent like a year and a half with Dan John.
Dan wrote the intro to his book.
Yeah, Dan has a rule that is food quantity determines your weight, food quality determines your body composition.
Yeah. Okay. So that's Dan John and not originally Josh Hillis. But
yeah.
So that's very simple. And I imagine that Josh's book is great, but it's over 300 pages.
Yeah.
Like, do you need to know that much, or like, is there some 8-page ebook out there that really tells you everything that you need to know? Maybe there is, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and say something that I was going to say before. Like, I've had a weird evolution as far as a dieter goes. Like, I actually originally started out reading stuff like Sugar Nation and Gary Taubes, like Good Calories, Bad Calories, stuff like that. And a lot of fit pros would be like, that's idiotic. And I don't really think it was that idiotic because, and granted, whenever I was first reading that stuff and first learning, I took it way too far. But I think that set a really, really good base for working with people who are gen population, because they tend to struggle with the things that are written about in that book, or in those books, and by those people. And now I get a lot of my info from like John Berardi. Like I'm a precision nutrition certified coach. Adam Bolstein is actually another one who has a lot of really good, simple nutrition advice. I mean, other than that, I think a lot of the people I read are like Alan Aragon, for example.
I definitely didn't mean to put down Aaron Aragon because he's like the #1 guy in the field. Of course, like, you go to him for nutrition.
Yeah,
but,
him
like,
and Lyle.
So we go to him and Lyle to get like the upper level stuff. Like if you want to be a math teacher, then you have to know more math than you're going to teach.
Yep.
So you have to know more nutrition than you're going to help people with. But like, you don't need to send your like obese client to bodycomposition.com. Like
No.
Another one to add to that list of the top 10% is Mike Israetel.
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
And his Renaissance Diet ebook is probably the simplest layout of athletic nutrition I've ever seen.
Cool.
But I would like to caution readers that Mike does mostly work with high-level athletes, and that it is very geared towards high-level athletes.
Yeah, and you have to take that into account.
Absolutely.
If it's not you, you have to know that, or like not direct people to it if that's not who they are.
All right.
Exactly.
So as I'm finally back in, thanks Google Hangouts for that. I missed out on the last minute, but let's wind the show down. So we've covered some good coaches to check out information from. We've gone over diets like paleo, not really so much Atkins, but even like veganism and veganism as if it's a religion. Being vegan, if it fits your macros, clean eating. We've talked about all of that. Things that we struggle with, and ways to help clients get over the hump and get better and make it more simple. So if you could wrap it up in one sort of closing, if you could do one sentence to a client, or what do you say? What is one sentence you give a client to sort of get across your nutrition guidelines?
We just spent an hour talking, and you want us to simplify it to one sentence?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I don't know.
This is the age of Twitter.
I'll knock this out first. That would be eat lots of protein, eat a whole lot of colors, and don't eat too many carbs that come from a box or a bag.
Yeah.
There.
I buy it. And drink water.
Yeah, drink, absolutely.
Yep.
Be realistic with where you're at and where you want to go.
Oh, so true.
Ooh.
So true.
I will say, I do have to preface it a little bit, but I will give you my sentence after that. I will preface it that 531 Jim Wendler, there's an interview with him where he says, if you don't know what you should be eating, then your parents failed you. And so the point of that is that everyone kind of knows what they already need to eat. They know what's good and bad for them.
And
they just don't do it.
Yep.
So my advice, my one sentence advice is, you know what to do, you just need to do it.
Yep. And if you don't know what to do, we'll teach you, and then you just need to do it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And if you know what you're doing, just start doing it and stumble along the way. It's better to stumble and be making strides than to just be sitting under the tree and staring off into space.
Very true.
I mean, you're going to get some bruises and you're going to get some scrape-ups, but at least you're moving on the road to somewhere.
Start now.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I've enjoyed the first episode of Coach's Corner. I hope you guys have as well. Again, Travis Pollen, Tanner Baze, Joseph Brigley, Adam Fisher. Again, I'll tag all their episodes. If you haven't listened to them, you can head over and listen to the episodes. But guys, thank you very much. I hope you guys, listeners, have taken something out of this. Even coaches who listen, please leave comments on the website or tag us in Facebook, and let's continue the conversation. On finding ways to simplify nutrition, because I think it's 70% of the battle. I mean, I could literally take a client and I could teach them how to only eat and never exercise for the rest of their life and just eat properly and stay within a calorie range. and they would see results. You would see results. I mean, it's the biggest part of the battle, but it's the toughest part of the battle.
I guess that's why we talked about this in general, because you can lift all the weights you want, but if your diet's not in check, then it's not going to do anything for you.
No,
it's going to do something, but it's not going to give you the body change that you need and want.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, guys, I've had a great time. Thank you for coming on. Listeners, please leave your comments. Send me an email over at sidequestfitness@gmail.com and let me know what you thought about this episode. We're going to do it once a month, so you'll have it coming to you once a month. But, guys, thank you for coming on.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.